Okay, so today you obviously are seeing Gears of War and not my face. I know that you're terribly sad about this, but it's Gears of War. I think you're going to be okay. Now, with that being said, let's get to today's topic. So, as a writer, and I've been a writer for, God, half my life now. Yeah, I'm getting kind of old, but still got a ways to go. But as a writer, I've noticed in myself and I'm noticing in other people that there's this struggle with the distinction between voice and style. And then there's this often prioritization of the technical aspects, which is the style, at the expense of personal expression, which is the voice. So I want to answer what's the distinction between these two things and how we as writers can develop our own unique narrative voice and and this is important, the complementary style needed to enhance it. See, to me, voice and style are not opposites. They're what or they're not no, they're not oppositional. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not oppositional. They are complementary opposites. If you have voice with no style, that's going to be problematic because style is the framework, as you're going to see here in a little bit, by which we can take that essence, that voice, you, and distill it out in a way that people can understand. Because again, you don't sit in your head and talk to yourself in the way that you would a book. You have to take what's inside of you and then distill it through conventions we've made, as a civilization and throughout time and history to really get that idea across. Because again, you probably are doing this on a feeling level. Now, let's start with the definition for what I have put out as for voice. Now, understand this is a loose definition. These are not meant to be firm in any way, shape, or form. But it is to be a working definition. It's something that we can use in this particular aspect in conversation. So, starting with voice. Voice is what you say and who you are. It's your unique personality, perspective, and emotional resonance that you, as the writer, bring to your work. Your voice reflects your genuine self. It's shaped by your worldview, your experiences, and your values. Now, with that being said, I want to break down what voice is, the elements, so to speak, of what voice is. Now, before I say that, I do want to make one clarification. I think there is a two-part problem to what we're having dealing with the distinction, is that, like I said earlier, voice is the kind of, not art, but it's the expression of yourself versus style's the technical. And on one hand, voice is kind of made to be this mystical thing. And in a way it is, because the way that I'm going to end up developing my voice and really getting that to shine in my writing will be completely different, potentially, to you. It can be different from other people. I can report what works for me, and you can try it, see what works. Maybe a couple pieces will work. I think this is real why, as a community of writers, we often should be talking to each other, asking questions, seeing what everyone's experiencing, what they're going through, all that, kumbaya. So, with that being said, let's lay down the first foundation. I think voice is identity. I think this is easy to see. Voice is the extension of your inner self. You're taking the things that you feel, the things that you've experienced, all these nebulous sensations, and you are then taking them out and you are constructing them into words, into sentences, into paragraphs, into chapters, and then into a whole book. You could feel the whole thing, but that doesn't help anyone else understand it because you're going to be feeling the stuff and they're going to think you're a freak. So, it is what it is. So, voice is identity. Now, voice is also innate, meaning it is intrinsic to you. It is a part of you. Your voice is It is a representation of the sum total of your existential parts, all the pieces of you. That is to say, as I said earlier in the definition, it's your experience, it's your emotions, it's your thoughts, your feelings, and your perspective. This is what makes you unique. This is why I think it's funny when I hear people want to imitate another writer's voice, and we are going to talk about that and actually what I think is going on. This is my hypothesis. But imitating another writer's voice, I think, is nearly impossible, because if you try to imitate their voice, but you go into create a new story, you're not actually imitating their voice, because you don't have all the experiences and everything that they've ever gone through, ever thought, have ever had happen, all the stray thoughts. Like, you don't have all that. So you will not interpret in the way that they would. Now, you could interpret and kind of like, you know how a 5-year-old imitates and interprets, like the Eiffel Tower. I don't know why I said that. I'm in America. A cheeseburger. There we go. A cheeseburger with crayons, by drawing, with crayons. Anyway, so that being said, voice, I think the most important thing that we're going to see here, that's going to be a running theme with voice, is that while it is innate, it can also be cultivated. And that kind of sounds weird, but if you've had any experience with yourself where you've been doing something, or you said something, or something just popped inside you, like you just popped off, you just said something, you went crazy, and you're suddenly like caught back by what just happened, like you're shocked at what you just did. Yeah, you have the understanding and the experience that we are these weird creatures that are very complex, and we don't even understand ourselves. Well, there's a lot of things going on inside of us constantly. And so you would think, naturally, being that it's your voice, it's you, these are all your parts, that this should just naturally happen. But actually, I think what the case is that these are things that have to be cultivated. So while the voice is innate, we often have to work to cultivate it. So, like, think about farming. We could just throw seeds out there, and maybe some of it will grow. Maybe we will be somewhat successful. We won't be as optimally successful as possible. We're not really giving ourselves the best chance, are we, by not, doing all the things that we can to set up our little farm for success. So in the same way, through cultivation, through practice, through introspection, through coming to understand ourselves on a deeper level and how we work and all these weird contradictory things that are going on inside of us, I think that's really the essence where really good writers who really understand themselves and understand human nature are able to say and tell stories that are extremely deep. So that's where the practice is going to come in, is through the cultivation. But I have a couple other things I want to say about voice before we continue on. So voice is resonant. A writer's voice comes from the ability to evoke emotional and intellectual responses. It's the way that we create a sense of connection with our readers, our audience, our fans. Yeah, no, I think that's good. I hope that made sense. I do think there's nothing more to be said there. The other thing is that your voice is layered. It includes multiple dimensions. We're talking here in a sense of the narrative voice of the story, the character's voice of the story, the subtextual voice of the story. And I said voice so many times. Please tell me you're not doing a shot game where you take a shot every time I say voice, because I think I just killed you, and I'm very sorry about that. Now, the other thing about it being layered is that these are not separate layers that are indistinct from each other. We as writers have the hard job of actually taking all these layers and making them work together simultaneously. So, there's kind of my little part about voice. I've kind of laid it out. Now let's jump over to style. So, let me grab my definition for style. So, if voice is the soul of your writing, style is its body. It's the technical framework and method that brings voice to life. Style is how you say it. It's all about deliberate choice. Deliberate choice in word selection, sentence structure, pacing, and the use of all those delicious literary devices. Style adapts to fit the context, the genre, and the purpose of your writing. So, just so you know, like, I've just made a short list, and this is going to probably be the first video, and we're going to do other videos that are going to kind of do deeper dives into this. So, kind of think of this as a primer. So, with style, you have all these techniques. For instance, you have diction, syntax, tone, voice, point of view, imagery and description, language, figurative language, pacing, all, again, the delicious literary devices. And then you have consistency and coherence. Style is all of these techniques. Style is how you shape your work. So again, imagine it like a framework. This is the skeleton. Or the body. Maybe that's the word. We'll do this weird dualism thing. So if voice is your soul or your mind, then technique or style, is the body. But they're not two different things. They're the same thing merged. They're the same thing. They're two different things that are merged. Anyways, okay, we're going to go on. So with that being said, style is constructed. Style is composed of the technical elements of writing and thus arises from the deliberate choices that we writers make about language, structure, rhythm, all of that. Remember, if voice is your genuine self, style is the constructed self. So it's like you're taking yourself as you, but style is how you're going to filter it through the conventions of our society and how we've figured out how to tell stories. Style is also contextual. The style of the work is dependent upon the purpose of the work. Again, you've heard me in my other videos, if you've listened, like World Building 101, purpose is one of the most important things. And I'm going to have a bigger video or another video, a longer video. If you do full screen, it's going to be a bigger video. But I'm going to make another video on purpose where I'm going to really dive in deep into all the things that you should think about when dealing with purpose. Okay, enough said on that. Let's go back to style as contextual. So, if style is contextual and it's dependent on the purpose of the work, the audience... Okay. It's dependent upon the purpose of the work the audience is trying to reach, and the audience that you are trying to reach, and the medium. So, style is contextual. It's not only the purpose of the work, but it's also the audience that you are trying to reach, and the medium that you are trying to reach them through. Now, style is also adaptable. Writers have this ability to freely change their style to suit their preferences and needs. You can highlight a certain set of, literary devices. Like I've heard, Brandon Sanderson doesn't do a lot of description. And what's funny is I never noticed that because I am a person who writes lots of description. I like to really dig in. If I'm going to do a lot of work on my novel, it's going to be really getting motions to resonate. Because I feel like those are the most impactful. And then it's going to be writing really fun setting descriptions. Because again, I'm a science fantasy writer. Why would I not want to make this world try to come to life? So, with that being said, the last thing I have to say on style is that it is the medium of communication. It is the technical skills that translates the ideas and the emotions into the form that other people can understand, that they can feel, and that they can interpret. Because again, we're talking about voice, we're talking about these things inside of us, but at the end of the day, all those feelings have to become translatable to the audience. And often, when things fall flat, it is because we as the writers did not do a good enough job translating the ideas. We did not use our medium to the greatest capacity that we could. So, Now, with those two kind of settled, those are the distinctions. I hope that makes sense. If it didn't, or if you have something to add, if I missed something, if I messed something up, if you disagree, comment down in the comment section below. Make the algorithm go burr. So, now let's move on to our next section. How can we as writers develop our voice? The first thing I'm going to tell you is, and if you have been on this channel at any length of time, you will not be shocked, philosophy. But I actually mean the highest form of philosophy, which is, Socrates is like, know thyself. And I think that is the best advice I could give you, is to sit with yourself, to be introspective, not in a navel-gazing way, but to ask yourself questions, to write in a journal or something, like to develop the thoughts and the feelings, and to like really go, why do I think this way? Why do I feel this way? Why did I, go back and look at situations and analyze how you felt then, how you feel about it now, what has changed? Like really start paying attention to yourself and your experience, because as a writer, I really think that you have everything you need in you and through your experience to tell a damn good story. The problem is all these technical things that we have to pull out, all the work that we have to do to really make it work. So again, introspection is going to be really good. Writing a journal, and I don't mean dear diary today, blah blah blah, right? I mean going in, asking yourself questions, or writing on a topic, or writing on a feeling. What is the feeling of the color blue? What is the feeling of sadness? What is the feeling of chainsawing a fucking Xeno? Or I guess we're chainsawing, a locust. That was more appropriate for what's going on in the background. This all kind of leads, when you really come to understand yourself, and I think this is something the late great writers have all been doing, is that they have what I'm terming out right now is a personal story language. They have developed a story language. Again, I'm working this out. That's going to be a whole nother video. You're going to have to wait, but I'm going to try to teach you how to do it. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I thought it was going to be simple, but like most things in life, you think it's simple, and then you go and look at it and you're like, oh crap, there's a lot of things going on under the hood here. Well, if I'm going to do this right, then I need to make sure I get at least a good number of those things mapped out. But it'll be good. But I think if you'll look at this, you can experientially see that if you read a certain writer and you read them across, so for instance, George R.R. Martin or Brandon Sanderson for me, both of them have written in different capacities: sci-fi, fantasy, a little bit of sci-fi fantasy, right? In certain regards, depending on how you term those out. There is a consistency with their work. Or look at George Lucas, right? Like you have Star Wars, and then you have that Muppet thing. I can't remember the story, but like he's done multiple things, right? Multiple types of stories. But there is a kind of through line that you can see through their vision. And that to me is the personal story language, right? Like these are the tiny details that they have pulled up out of themselves that kind of imprint themselves everywhere, but it's not ham-fisted. So again, we'll work that out. That's coming like line. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. You're going to subscribe and you're going to comment down below and all that. But anyways, the other thing going along with know thyself, well, to know thyself is going to require you to develop some self-awareness. And also to mine your experience. So like you will be able to mine through your experience, through your self-awareness. So for instance, I have my sci-fi monster hunter book, shameless plug, where my main character in that is Yagran, and the kind of thematic question, again, if you've seen World Building 101, I like thematic questions. I don't like statements. It's a personal preference because I think questions allow you to explore in a way that statements don't. Statements are kind of final. Questions are kind of open-ended. And you can answer a question in multiple different ways. But anyways, all that being said, the thematic question for Yagran was, who do you become when you lose everything? Who do you become when you lose everything and everyone you love and you don't have anyone left. And so he becomes this whole kind of exploration of grief while tearing monsters apart, which is like, I think it's great because I don't think that masculinity has to be this knuckle dragger shit. I do think that we as men have very deep emotions, and at some point, someone along the way tried to rob us of that. But if you look at games like Warhammer 40K, Gears of War, again, perfect thing on the screen. This game is so emotional. I have cried multiple times through this game. Not this particular campaign, although I was getting misty-eyed at one point because I know what's coming down the line in 2 and 3. If you know, you know, and that fucking kills me. But you know what? I hate this idea that we men are just these emotionless animals. We're so not. We're so much more than that. Anyways, that being aside, Jaegrin was developed through my self-awareness. It was an exploration of my own grief and how I'm dealing with it. And kind of to tell you, one of the answers is that you need other people. To deal with grief, you do need other people. You were meant to not be alone. And that was my conclusion. And so that's kind of what his arc is about going through. There's a little bit of a... I don't know. Is that a spoiler? Well, have fun along the journey because it's going to be a bumpy ride. So, another thing that you can do with your voice is to learn to develop your own diction. What I mean by diction, if you don't know, that means to choose your own word. Diction, like dictionary words, all that, right? So, diction would be like getting not only a better vocabulary, but learning to do better word choice. So, one of my favorite things, and if you want to see a video on this, we can do it, is how you can do small little word choices and you can really change the feeling of an entire scene. It's really crazy. Word choice is so much more than just the expression of the exact content, like the show don't tell and that thing. Again, there will be a video on that. I'm working out that again, it got complicated. I'm always making things complicated, but I do think it's complex in a way that will be very valuable to you. So we'll hope. And I'm trying to see if I can break these things down where I can make shorter videos and really help you. And again, ultimately, at the end of the day, I hope that they help you. So, sorry. Word choice is just as much about expressing the exact context, show don't tell, as it is about expressing them through your voice. There is a way... It's weird. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's like you could have the exact same sentence in the middle of a paragraph, but you could have two different writers, and the way that they express the sentences around those, that middle sentence, like I did this as a experiment one time with some friends, and it's very crazy how that one sentence in the middle can be totally reshaped by the words you're using, the sentences that are coming before and after it, like the context. And when you really have developed your own diction, again, that starts heading towards personal story language. But when you really have that diction, you're going to have an amazing control over what your audience experiences. Now, another thing when it comes to voice, I think you should always experiment often. Try different styles, try different genres. Write often. Be playful with your writing. I think there's a time to be serious and a time to play. When you are writing your novel, if you want to put it out to the world so people will buy it or whatever, that's the time to be serious. You can always do a little experimentation in it, but you're doing purposeful experimentation. But there are other times, play with it. Be crazy. Be wild. Like, this is how new genres get built, was from people being crazy and wild and just experimenting and having fun with it. Playing brings creativity, while I think seriousness brings results. But you need both of them. These are not opposing forces. Again, these are complementary opposites. So, one of the things I've been working on is to develop my own metaphors. And I think this is another way that you build out the world, because metaphors are the way that you can see the world. They're how you extract these really deep levels of experience and emotion and all the good stuff, right? But you can package it in a way that is so simple. It's deceptively simple. So my suggestion there is read metaphors, go look at the late greats, look at the best authors we have now, look at the metaphors, and then practice with coming up with your own. Again, if you want to hear another video, we could do a breakdown of like really how to make metaphors and all that. Like not meaning a literary class metaphor where like, yes, here's the technicals, but like really trying to break down the practices and all that. And one of the easiest things is to read widely and analytically. So here's one of the interesting problems that I see is that there's a lot of talk about imitating other authors and their styles. And while I don't think that's a problem, I do again think that's nearly impossible. But when I say read widely and analytically, I don't mean in the sense to analyze their voice. And I'm going to use this as a flawless transition over to start talking about how we develop a complementary style that enhances our voice. And so we're going to start within the context of mimicking another author's style. Because when I think that we're talking about mimicking other authors, right? So when you're reading widely, you're reading a lot of different things and you're what was it? Reading widely and analytically. So you're going to sit down. And when I say analytically, I mean, what really excites you? What makes you happy? What makes you just want to write when you hear it? Like, what resonates with you? When it resonates with you, spend time analyzing it because that's your indicator. I would say not necessarily that you have to go analyze like the late greats. That is a good thing. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But you're going to get a lot of good technical skill there that isn't going to be transferring over to your voice. Again, not downplaying it. I still think that's valuable and could be worth your time. But if you want to really develop your voice, then what you want to do is mimic the style. So I think the problem is that we go, I want to mimic this writer's voice. And it's like, it's not the voice that you want to mimic. It's really the style. Because again, I said earlier, if you and I sat down and you mimicked my style, thank you. Oh, I appreciate it. Flattery. It's so great. Anyways, you want to mimic my style. So you analyze the, 5 or 6 books or whatever I have out, which another one's hopefully coming out soon. I just got to finish editing it. I'll probably do a video for that. So, like, share, and subscribe for that in the future. Anyway, so, but yeah, you want to mimic my style. And then we both say, okay, we're going to write this scene, and here's all the characters, here's how they feel. Like, we're going to lay it out so that you and I have a lot of the specifics. The way that you and I are ultimately going to write that out is going to be different, not because of the style, because maybe you could mimic my style, but you and I, we're going to have different voices. Because again, you don't have my life experiences, all the thoughts I've ever had, all the relationships I've ever had, all that being said. So I do think when you try to mimic another author, analyze the style because there's something in there that you like. So spend time doing that, analyzing the things that you like. Now, research and practice the various literary devices and see how other authors have used them. It goes along with mimicking the style. Deconstruct other writers' work and figure out what you love about it. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, one of the things I'm going to provide to you, because it provides worth to me, and then I'm going to put the video together, but I ultimately think it'll be good for all of us, is that I'm developing a new series that I'm going to call Elemental Analysis. So why you see Gears of War on the screen is because I did a playthrough, and as I was doing the playthrough, I was really trying to think about how I could deconstruct all the elements of this game, like the essence of what makes Gears of War. And I'm going to try to break it down into such a way that you as a writer could take that and create your own story that would have that same feeling. Because I think it's interesting is that we as fans of stuff, like me being a fan of Gears of War, it's that I love the feeling of that game. but I think it's something that I couldn't tell you as, just a fan, why, how this game is the way it is, right? Like all the elements and all that. But I bet you that super fans can tell you exactly what it is because they've spent so much time in it and really thinking it through. Now the problem is, as writers, if we're trying to write like something like that, then and we don't deconstruct it properly, while the fans couldn't tell you how to build it, they can sure as hell tell you where you got it wrong. So that whole elemental analysis series, I'm going to just try to do as many things as I love, video game wise, and maybe some stuff that you guys can suggest. But yeah, that's a big project. I'm a good way there. It is very complex. Those will be very long videos, but hopefully they will be very packed and useful. Again, we'll need feedback on that because I do think it's going to have to develop over time. Anyways, all that being said, now you know why we're watching Gears of War. So, in the kind of context of Gears of War, I think one of the ways that you can also develop really good style is through poetry and analyzing it. Not analyzing it, analyzing it. I know. But actually what's really funny is if you look at Gears of War, one of the funniest things to me is the contradiction of everyone's like, oh, this is big masculine, bro, like chainsaws and shit and all this, but it's actually pretty poetic. And it deals with some really hard things. Like, go watch the first trailer for this game. They were pushing a kind of poetic feeling for the game. Anyways, but the reason I think poetry is good too is that it's highly stylized. There's a lot of literary devices that are used on a very, very like fine-tuned level. Like the best poetry's got, like, those techniques are crazy good. And if you can figure out how to do them, you don't necessarily have to write in poetry, but you can borrow those tools. So it's like just putting tools in the tool belt. And last but not least, I think practicing the core elements of style, which insofar as I can see right now, and again, I might disagree later. And if you disagree, please put it in the comment section below. Is diction, syntax, and tone and voice. So diction, again, word usage. The particular words that you're going to use. Instead of saying walk, you could say ambled. Instead of jump. Yeah, I just lost it. Okay, anyways, syntax. How we string words together. And then how do we string the sentences together? There's the whole thing about short sentences, fast sentences, how you make them flow. You can stutter step them. Like, you can do all these things and it's really kind of crazy if you think about it, jack with people's minds. Now, the last thing is tone and voice. This works with the ways that we use to align tone with the message or the narrative. Also, it's like the practice with odd tones. Yeah. Okay. So practice with odd tones. See how they conflict. So, for instance, write a sad funeral scene in a comedic light. It's going to feel really weird. Or have one scene be, this very somber tone, and then flip it and go comedy. And the reason I'm saying this is because they're going to clash. And if you sit and analyze why those clash, like the feeling, what's going on there, you're going to figure out what doesn't work there. But you can see areas where it does work. And that's how you figure out stuff. That's how you end up doing something that no one's ever done before. Is that you play with things. Again, go back to have time to sit down and play with it. So, with all that being said, voice is who you are. It's your truth. It's everything that makes up you, kind of on this, like, non-physical level, so to speak, right? If you get what I'm saying. Versus style is all the technical stuff that we can do, all the ways that we can, through conventions and techniques and styles, that we can really manipulate how the audience perceives things. So there you go. I hope that helped. I feel like there's something more here. I think we'll just have to save it for another video. If you have any critiques, please leave them in the description below. My God, what is going on? Please leave them in the comment section below. It's like I've listened to 10,000 YouTube videos, probably 20,000 at this point, and I still can't get it right. Comment in the comment section below. Hey, in the description below, if you want to see some of my writing, there's a link to my Amazon page. I will eventually be getting Campfire Write up, if you know about that platform, because it's going to allow us to give you direct lore dumps. So if you like lore, I'm going to give you lore dump. Now, it won't be a dump in the sense of it's going to be a written article. It's going to be in the sense of through in-universe characters, because I really like that. Like I saw it with 40K. I think 40K does a really cool job of nothing is ever sure or settled unless it's directly that character or they're there. Because I like the idea that you do not have a universal omnipotent writer saying, this is exactly how it is. Anyways, that's all I got. I've been your archivist, and I will talk to you later. Peace.